Both the Protestant Reformation and the Scientific Revolution challenged the absolute authority of the Pope and the Catholic Church. The Reformation challenged it on religious grounds, while the Scientific Revolution challenged it on scientific and mathematical credibility, and they were both equally influential. These two things made the Church have to defend itself and make its own reforms. Divine right and the mandate of heaven stated that a king was not ruling based on any earthly authority. It asserted that his right to rule came directly from the will of God. It is because of this that a king wasn't subject to the will of the people, the aristocracy, or any other estate of the realm, including the church. Any attempt to depose the king or to restrict his powers runs contrary to the will of God. The mandate of heaven was similar in that it involved religion. It stated that heaven would bless the authority of a just ruler, but would be displeased with an unjust one and would withdraw their mandate. The mandate of heaven would then go to those who would rule best. The Roman, Mongol, and Muslim empires had allowed existing cultural traditions to exist in lands they conquered. In America, however, the population was completely wiped out and a large number of new settlers were moved in. The people who had originally lived in the Americas were either killed or forced to leave. The Aztec and Incan populations were completely wiped out, replaced by huge cities. Also, Europeans moved by the hundreds and thousands to the Americas. Millions of Africans were forced to migrate to the Americas as slaves. The world at this time was becoming truly global. The Western Hemisphere came into contact with the Eastern. Maritime trade dominated the world, and European kingdoms were constantly gaining world power. A vigorous slave trade from Africa began and continued throughout most of this time. Slave labor became very important throughout America. The exploration of Asia by the Europeans was an early attempt to open up China and Japan after the Mongol takeover. China overall rejected the Europeans and what trade they had to offer. They did for some time have connections with the Jesuits because they were a beneficial way to access European technology. Japan, on the other hand, due to its location, wasn't very sought after for trading. Only the Dutch came into contact with them. The Mughal Empire's relation with the European explorers was different. They were open to all Europeans who contacted them and saw them as trade partners. Exploration of North America by European countries led to colonization and suppression of the natives. The territory was mostly controlled by Britain and France. The area of modern Canada was also under French control. In exchange for furs and skins, the French helped out the Amerindians and also gave them technology the French possessed. British, instead, while sending people over to colonize the East Coast, pushed out the Amerindians, replacing them almost completely with newcomers. Exploration of South America by the Spanish and Portuguese led to an enslavement and almost extinction of the Amerindians. In the central region, the Amerindians were forced to work in mining. The land was drained of natural resources like silver, which were shipped over to Spain to be sold. The exact same thing was done in the agricultural field. Portuguese, specifically for the first half of the period, created sugar plantations with Amerindian workers and African slaves. Over time, the Amerindians were completely wiped out and replaced with African slaves. The impact of exploration was a complete destruction of a newly discovered civilization. European exploration of the world led to a completely beneficial situation on their side. Due to their exploration, countries like Portugal, Spain, Britain, and France had become empires. They were able to take resources from the new territories and expand their own economies. They managed to gain monopolies over silver and gold in the New World.